Good morning and welcome. Wait a minute. That's not how we start these videos. Hey, yo, this is Dash, and you are joining me out at the new cooker. Still playing with the name. Haven't figured out what the name is going to be just yet, but I figured I would show you guys the process on getting it started, as well as clean out the ash pot before I get started. So let me get the ash pot cleaned out. Let me get it started, and then I'll tell you what I have going on for today. Get ready. All right, so here is the fire pot, and I have the other side unclipped just so I could get this out pretty easily. And that's it. That's what's in there. Now there is a little area in there I can see that I could probably, once there's buildup, get in there and clean it out better. But that's it. And that was a couple cooks. Yeah, I did the salmon and I did the brisket, the wings, and the lamb. Cleaned out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the cooker turned on. So press the power button. Showing 77 degrees currently, and it says press the knob to ignite or turn the knob for more options. If I turn the knob, I'm in the cold smoke setting. And if I turn it again, I get back to the regular cook. We're gonna ignite, and I'm gonna turn this up and set it for 250 degrees. All right, so I think there you have it. That is the process of getting the pellet cooker started. I mean, couldn't be simpler enough. That ash pot, I won't say did not need to be cleaned out, but you can probably go a few cooks without cleaning it out, without having to worry. But today, I have to cook a brisket. I have to cook some chicken. I have a pork shoulder and I have some ribs. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those things seasoned and ready for the cooker. You guys have seen me get those things taken care of plenty of times. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the membrane pulled off of the ribs, the brisket trimmed, the pork trimmed, and my chicken just seasoned. So I'm gonna get those things taken care of. By the time I get those things taken care of, the cooker should be up to temperature, and I'll bring you guys back for when I'm loading the smoker. All right, I am back at the cooker, and we are ready to get the show on the road. So my temperature is set to 250 degrees. The cooker is currently showing 242 degrees, so we are pretty much spot on. I'm gonna go ahead and get the cooker opened and get everything loaded. Get the shelves ready, and I'll be right back. First up is my brisket. Just gonna get it laid out, fat side up. I always cook fat side up. Next up, chicken breast. Next up, thighs. Next up are my ribs. Just gonna kind of squish them together so they're like a uniform thickness, and it'll make it easier for me to get them out. Whew. Now, pork shoulder. There's the big piece, and here's a little piece. So I'm going to put a probe into the chicken breast just so I can monitor that temperature, because that's the thing that's going to come off of the cooker first. My ribs, I'm going to probably just monitor them, but I'll get some sauce on them probably about 2, maybe 3 hours in. So let me get this done. And my chicken probe. Let's scoot this back. Woo-hoo. All right, chicken is probed, and like I said, I'm going to monitor the chicken temperature so that I can know when I'm ready to put some sauce on that. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up out here. I haven't used it's a 5-foot stainless steel prep table that I get everything seasoned on, taken care of in the house. I bring it out here, season it out here, and then I get it onto the smoker. So if you guys want to see more of that, let me know. Most of the time, the prep work, I feel like, is just a waste of time. You guys are here to see the cooker, not me preparing everything. I'll see you guys. Let's check it in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. All right, so it has been an hour and a half, and I am back out at the cooker. So I want to say one of the things I'm noticing, I'm looking at the thermometer right here on the door. It is showing a little under 225 degrees, like 210, 212. On the controller, it's showing that the set temp is 250 and it's running currently at 254 degrees. Nothing concerning, little off. I might try and play with the settings, but this could just be a product of the fact that there's food in there and the temperature a little higher, a little warmer is cooler. Not that big of a deal. Everything's looking good. Just preliminarily. Let's pull this out. Take a look at the pork. We're getting some decent color on the ribs so far and decent color on the pork shoulder. Nothing crazy or out of the ordinary. Now this brisket, I'm starting to see some color on the edges there, and my chicken is looking good as well. I gotta run and go get my wife breakfast, and I will be back. When I get back, or by the time I get back, I should be able to put some sauce on the chicken and just finish the chicken. So I'm gonna keep monitoring this, and I'll see it and you guys when I get back, or when I sauce the chicken. All right, so we are at almost 3 hours. Sheesh. Yeah. Almost 3 hours. Everything's been in here. And my chicken has decent color. My ribs look good. I'm gonna sauce everything. We'll sauce the ribs and the chicken. Pull this out. Switch. Pull this out. All right, so I'm gonna sauce my chicken. I'm gonna put a little bit of sauce on top of my chicken, and then I'll do the same for my ribs. All right, last I'm going to just spread the sauce kind of evenly, pat it around. I usually have a brush with me, but because I don't have a brush with me, I'm just going to use my hands, spread the sauce kind of edge to edge on the ribs. Let that sauce sit here, get some heat and smoke. Not going to worry about doing it on the chicken because the chicken is going to get mashed up, pulled. and it won't make a difference because it's all gonna get mashed up together. All right, I'll see you guys once the chicken is done, once the chicken hits temp. All right, so I am back out at the cooker, and the temperature on the cooker is still holding at between about 240 and 255 degrees. I'm still showing the thermometer a little low. It's right under 225 degrees, but not really all that worried about that. Let's get this open. Woo. Those of you guys wondering about the smoke, there's plenty of smoke here. All right, so my chicken looks done. Let's temp this. 167, 166, 162, 160, 168. All right, so those are done. So let's get the chicken out of there. All right. Put some trays down, and we'll get these things taken out of here. These things are definitely hot. So my chicken is done. What I'm gonna do is take this in the house and let it rest for probably about 15-20 minutes, and then I will get I will pull the chicken. These are bone-in thighs because that's what was available. There were no boneless thighs today or yesterday when I purchased these things. So I had to get bone-in. They smell pretty phenomenal and look pretty phenomenal as well. So these things have been in here for almost 5 hours, and I didn't temp the brisket, but I could. Funny, that's my temperature alarm. I took the probe out of the chicken, so of course it's going crazy right now. Let's get this brisket out. This brisket looks pretty nice as well. Woo. Move it cord. Put that back up here for now. My ribs don't look done yet, so I might just put them in the foil pan and let them stay out here a little bit longer. They're almost there. And this pork shoulder I'm going to pull and put it in the house and finish it in the oven. Ooh. Whew. That is hot. But the ribs, oh, I should have shown you guys where I took the glove off. The ribs are looking pretty good, as well as the pork shoulder. Darn it, gloves. Just gonna put those ribs up on the top shelf, and there's probably enough pellets in there for that to go for maybe about another hour. They are getting, I won't say dangerously low, but it's getting very low. So I'm actually gonna run up to the house or go up to the house and get some pellets and put them in here so that this can actually finish. I am actually down to the exposed screw. So this has been running for approximately 5 hours today, 4 hours the other day, 8 hours on the smoke, but that was at a lower temperature. So this is probably, it could probably run at 250 degrees for 15 hours maybe? No, 12 hours, maybe 12 hours conservatively. I'll show you guys down in there what that hopper looks like. Like I said, I just moved the pellets around in there, but this hopper was, I won't say half, but I will actually, because of the fact that it's empty, I will be trying to put put marks on the inside of the hopper so that I know what the capacity is. Alrighty, so I am back in the kitchen where it's cooler, not much cooler, because I have the oven on behind me and it's hot as hell over here in this corner. But my brisket and my pork shoulder still have a ways to go before they are done. But this is the chicken that I pulled off of the cooker a little while ago, and it's been sitting here a little bit. So if this were not as cool, if it hadn't cooled, it would be easier for me to pull it apart by hand. But what I'll do is I will just roughly pulling this apart, and I will get a cutting board in here and chop this up. Not a big deal. But the main thing that I'm in here for, not to worry about the breasts, are these thighs. I need to come in here and pull out the bones from the thighs. That's why I'm just coming in here, getting these out of here so I can then come back with the cutting board and just do a rough chop and get this meat all cut up. Any excess fat you want to pull out of there, if you see it, if you want to pull it out, you can. I'm just going to pull these bones or the meat off of the bones, and like I said, I'm going to come back and get this rough cut and not diced, but chopped up. That's why I say pulled / chopped chicken. Now, if I had boneless, skinless thighs, I would be just to the point where I'd be cutting them up. But that wasn't the case today. Now, these bones that I'm pulling out of here make a fantastic soup. So if that is something you are into or something you want to do, or during the winter, I actually do when I'm pulling chicken, I will save the bones, try to leave a little more meat on the bones than, I won't say normal, than I usually would. And I will save these bones and make some smoked chicken, I won't say noodle soup, but it's not always noodle soup, but a smoked chicken soup, man, fantastic. Maybe I will save these bones and make a soup, just because. All right, so this is done. I'm going to come back and chop it all up with a knife. All right, so I am back in the kitchen and everything is finished. My brisket is done, the ribs are done, the pulled pork is done, the chicken is done. You guys saw that earlier. So first thing we're gonna take care of is the brisket. I'm gonna get this cut up like I normally do. Get the fat poured off. All right. So I'm feeling for where the two pieces of meat come together, and there's that pocket of fat. I'm trying to cut along that pocket of fat and separate the two cuts. I'm gonna put the point off to the side for a moment. Some of this extra fat in here we're gonna cut and get rid of. So before I get in too deep, I want to show you guys the brisket. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this piece of brisket has a deeper smoke ring than the last brisket I did. This brisket sat out in the smoker for 5 hours as opposed to 4. So I want to say that might be the magic number with this cooker. With my other wood burning smokers or the charcoal and wood combination, after 4 hours it's got all the smoke, or more often than not, the brisket, pork shoulder, ribs, things like that have as much smoke as they're going to take. Maybe this cooker's a little different and I might need to adjust, I won't say my cook times, but my smoke times accordingly. Now, because this customer is actually getting some brisket beans as well as the brisket, the pulled pork, the pulled chicken, and the ribs, because of that, I'm putting some meat off to the side so that I can add it into the beans when I get those cooked. So I'm just going to cut all of these things up and I'm put it into a container. So I'm going to take some of the point, and also I'll get some of the, I'll get some of the flat, and I'll also get some of the point once I get to that point. Because this is for a catered event, a smaller event, I'm going to cut the brisket into thirds in an effort to make this stretch a little more. So I'm trimming the egregious amounts of fat that were in between the muscles that didn't render. That vein of fat is just a bit much. That could go in the beans. There was some meat in there. This whole, nothing but fat there. This brisket was cut up, butchered kind of wonkily, and it seems they got more of the fat than not. This piece can also go in the beans. So this brisket ended up being way more fat than anticipated. So I had a much smaller yield than anticipated. Like I said, it seems to have been butchered, say incorrectly, but butchered wonkily. I don't know how else to say it, but there was way more fat running in through this brisket, and the point was kind of just cut off. It wasn't what it should have been. So I'll make do with what I have and what I need to put aside for the brisket beans. I'm gonna go ahead and get the next thing going, which I think I'll do the ribs next. And I'm back. All right, so next up is the ribs. I have 4 racks of baby back ribs that I'm going to cut up and get put into a pan. I have just a basic cutting board here. I'm going to bring them to my cutting board, slice them, and then put them into the pan. So nothing special. These ribs are pretty done. So I'm not, here, I will turn this way and move this up just a little bit so you can watch what I'm doing. I'm not turning the ribs over and putting the sauce side down. Can we normalize like not turning over the ribs and messing up the barbecue sauce presentation side of the ribs? Please. It's been a few months since I've taken my knives to get sharpened, and they need to get sharpened. This is evident. Whew. So I'm simply cutting the rack in half and only, I won't say dealing with, but only handling half the ribs at a time, because that's what fits, I won't say in my hand, but I can pick it up easily. Oh, I forgot to mention, but talk about the smoke ring on these ribs. Woo! Oh, got some sauce on my hand there. It looks pretty fantastic. So those ribs sat in the smoker for 5-ish hours naked. Before I put them in the pan and wrap them up. So they sat in the smoke for quite a while. Try to get some ribs down the middle of this pan so I can fit as many in here as I can. All right, last but not least, all right, there you have it. Ribs done. And I'm back. Last but not least, pulled pork. You're probably looking at me like, Dash, why do you have a drill? And what is that attachment on the drill? This, my friends, is the easiest way I have found to pull pork. And when I say easiest way, it is the easiest and most efficient way to pull pork. So I'm going to show you guys just how quick and easy it is to pull pork. It started as, I think it was 19-ish pounds of pork. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull just by hand this fat, this layer of fat on top. I'm going to get a lot of this off. And right under that, I've heard people refer to this as like the pork belly bacon. People refer to it as lots of different things, but this extra, I won't say the extra thick, but that layer of fat that's on top of the pork shoulder, I'm going to take it off and discard that. Anything that doesn't have good mouthfeel, I'm going to try to discard. So any like egregious bits of fat, I'm going to take off and leave in this pan. But the majority of this is going to go into that pot and then get blitzed with that attachment on the drill. You see, I'm not pulling the pork or anything. I'm just getting the real big pieces of fat and the like cartilage and all this other stuff that's just not going to be good out and off. All right, so I have about half of my pulled pork into this pan, and I'm just going to take my drill, get it down in here, and just pulse it. Every now and again, you're going to need to clear the tines out. Move the pork around, get some of the stuff that's kind of in the corners, but if you are producing any sort of pulled pork at volume, you need to get one of these. I will put a link down in the description for one that I found on Amazon that's very similar to this one here. So at this point, I'm gonna push the pork that needs to be blitzed in this on the other side. You'll find that you will still need to go through and process and like get some of the pieces that didn't get 100% blitzed up, but for the most part, and anything that I won't say didn't get obliterated, I'm just gonna send it back the second time. But perfectly pulled pork, perfectly. Any of the pieces that didn't get blitzed, I'm just gonna go through by hand and pull them out. And it's not taking very much effort for me to take this nugget and just crumble it apart. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get some extra seasonings and some barbecue sauce down here in this pan. But for you guys, this video has been long enough. I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so very much as always for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you like what you saw in this video, if you learned something today, please leave me a comment down below and or some feedback on what I can do to improve. Anyway, thanks again so very much again, for as always, for watching these videos. I appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out while I get to know this new cooker. I haven't forgotten. We will work on a name. We'll work on a name. How about drop some name suggestions in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.
More butter, baby.